Hello, Daisies. This is Mrs. Hunter, and today I want to talk to you about your homework that was called Solving Mental Math Equations. And actually, it is so simple, but I wanted to add a little twist to it. And in class, I started explaining to you that I want you to show me these equations by proving what the answer is. This is effectively, ladies, algebra. It's pre-algebra, but it's algebra all the same. And it's because we have these little letters here that stand for a number. And these letters are called variables. And we are solving for these variables, or solving for the unknown, which is by definition what algebra truly is. So, what I would like us to do is, after you've read these examples, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind because that's the mental math. But now I want you to prove to me that you understand why the answers are what they are. And so that's what I want to show you, how to prove to me what x is, or what y is, or what these other variables are. So let's look at this first question. It says 3x is equal to 21. Now this is truly mental math. It comes from one of your multiplication facts where you know 3 times 7 is equal to 21. So we know that x is 7. However, I need you to prove it to me. And the way that we do that is by taking 4 steps. And these are the 4 steps. You may write this down on your notes, in your math notebooks, or you may write this on the back of your homework, but you need to write it down somewhere, and this video is available for you to get it all. What we're effectively doing, girls, is we're solving one-step equations. And when you're solving one-step equations, you need to remember 4 main things. The first thing you want to remember is find the inverse operation. When we're talking about operations, we're talking about adding, multiplication, division, and subtracting. But when I say the inverse operation, I'm referring to the opposite of the current operation that you're working with. So, if I'm talking about addition, the inverse operation is subtraction. If we're dealing with multiplication, then the inverse operation is division. So, this is basic, and you guys remember this, but I want you to make sure that you realize that this is a step in solving these problems. We're going to also take a look at a number line on a couple of these problems so that you understand how this inverse operation works. The second step is get the variable by itself. So when you look at these variables, x or y or c, or whichever one it is, we're going to try to get it by itself. Get it alone so that we can actually see what the value of that variable is. The third step is something that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now, and that is keep the equation balanced. This is my little picture of a scale, and basically what I want you to do is make sure that it's balanced. Whatever you do on one side of the equation, you must do on the other. So we used an example, for instance, that 2 plus 3 must be balanced, and so on the other side of the equation, to make it balanced, would be a 5. That's keeping both sides balanced because 2 plus 3 is equal to 5 and 5 is equal to 5, and so it is balanced. It checks out. And the final step is solve the new equation to find the variable's value. So in these problems that we're going to be working on, we're going to start with number 1, then we're going to do number 4, 6, and 8. And what we're going to do is follow these 4 steps. So, hopefully you're ready. Here we go. The first problem, girls, 3 times x is equal to 21. Remember, anytime that you see a variable next to a whole number, that means multiplication. So, what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 times x is equal to 21, and how do we find what x is? We said that it's 7. But now I said I need you to prove it to me. So when we look at this problem, we know that it's multiplication. So what we're going to do is find the inverse operation, and the inverse operation is going to again be division. Now what I'm drawing underneath 3x is equal to 21 is an actual fraction bar, which is what you're most familiar with it as, but it's also considered a division bar. Anytime you have a number over a fraction bar with a number underneath it, it can also be considered a division problem. So that's what we're going to do. We've done it on one side, so we're going to do it on the other for this particular purpose. Now, the second step is to get the variable by itself. When we get the variable by itself, we need to look at, first of all, where is the variable? The variable is here, and it is x. Which number is closest to x? The 3 is. We know we're going to divide on both sides, but we now know that we need to do something with that 3. What are we going to do? We're going to divide the 3 on both sides. So now we have 3x divided by 3 is equal to 21 divided by 3. But let's focus on this left side first. Now, this is where a lot of the algebra starts to come into play because this is new for you. So what you're going to do is when you have a numerator, which is the top number, with a denominator, which is the bottom number, and they are the same number, and it has an x or a variable, what you can do is you can cancel both of these out. What I mean by that is 3 divided by 3 is really 1, but we're canceling it out like that. That means 1. We've done something with these two numbers. We've said 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. That is the answer. We have the x. It comes down. I know this is new. Take a breath, look at it, and just know and trust that Mrs. Hunter knows what she's doing. And this is correct. 3x divided by 3 is 1x because 3 divided by 3 is 1. And you're bringing down the x. Now here's the deal. As mathematicians, when we're doing algebra, you will never see in algebra a 1 in front of a variable, x, c, or any other variable. What you will normally see is this. And what I want to tell you is these are equivalent. They mean exactly the same thing. In algebra, the 1 is sort of invisible. It's still there. It's still there, but we take it for granted that the 1 is there, but we don't write it. So just know that in algebra, when you have a variable with a 1 in front of it, you do not need to write the 1. All you need to do is write the variable, and in this case, it's x. So on our left side of the equation, this is what we have, x. We have done what we were supposed to do. We've gotten x alone. Now we need to solve on the right side of the equation to see how it balances out. Now we have 21 divided by 3. This is a multiplication fact. This is part of your fact family. 21 divided by 3 is equal to 7. And we have found x is equal to 7. The final thing that I need you to do is to check your work. To check your work, I want you to substitute the 7 back into the x. So that means this. We're going to have 3 times 7, which represents the x now. We know the value of x is 7, is equal to 21. 3 times 7 is a multiplication fact. 3 times 7 is what? 21. 21 is equal to 21, and it checks out. So now we know that 3x equal to 21, x is equal to 7, and on your homework assignment, that is what you're going to write in. You're going to write that x is equal to 7, and you may do your check. 3 times 7 is equal to 21 because 21 is equal to 21. Now the thing is, ladies, I know you already know this part, but I want to see this information as well. So please, if you can't write it on the actual homework, then I want you to attach it to your homework. Let's do number 4. Here's number 4. C minus 7 is equal to 20. What's our first step? Let's look back. Find the inverse operation. And you may need to look at a number line. So let's do that. C minus 7 is equal to 20. We know that the operation right now is minus 7. So the inverse operation is going to be plus. We know we're going to have to add. What are we going to have to add in order to get C by itself? Because your next step is get the variable by itself. What we need to do is we need to add 7. Because right now, 7 is the closest thing to C. Now, I know this looks really, really funny to all of us. So what I want us to do now is look at this number line. We are here at minus 7, okay? And what I'm saying is that we need to add 7. What does that mean? What does that really mean? It means if you add 7, we should get 0. Let's prove it. If I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm at 0. Because minus 7 plus 7 is going to equal to 0. So now we have C plus 0 is equal to 20 plus 7. What I want us to do is finish out this left side of this equation though. C plus 0 is really just C, because we don't have anything else to add to that C. So we've gotten C by itself. We understand why we got C by itself, because we started with a minus 7 and we added 7, and that takes us to 0. So that leaves C by itself. Let's look at the right side of this equation. When you look at the right side, you see now 20 plus 7. Why did we add 7 on this right side? Does anyone remember? What was our third step? Our third step was to keep the equation balanced. So whatever you do on one side of the equation, you must do on the other side of the equation. So now we have C plus 7 is equal to 27. We have found the value for C, so let's check our work. When we place the 27 back in the original problem, we have 27 minus 7 is equal to 20. That looks good. So 27 minus 7 is equal to 20. 20 is equal to 20, and we've checked it out. That is working perfectly. That makes sense. It keeps it balanced. So C is equal to 27. And that is what you should have in your or on your work for number 4. C is equal to 27. Make sure you show me your work. 27 minus 7 is equal to 20, because 20 is equal to 20, and it checks out. Let's do C. Hopefully you're becoming a little bit more comfortable with this now. We have 25 is equal to 10 plus x. I'm sorry, this is number 6, not C. 6 says 25 is equal to 10 plus x. We look at the inverse, we look at the operation, and we find the inverse operation. Right now we have adding. The inverse operation of adding is subtracting. What is closest to x? We're trying to get x by itself. So we can take 10 away. 10 minus 10 is going to give us 0 plus x. So on the right side of this equation, we see x. We have gotten x by itself. Now we need to do the same thing that we did on the right side, we need to do on the left side of the equation. What did we do? We subtracted 10. 25 minus 10 is equal to what? 15. So now we have 15 is equal to x. If we check our work, we have to substitute 25 is equal to 10 plus 15, and that is equal to 25 is equal to 25, and it checks out. See me on the next video for this final problem.